Good morning, crime community. I'm here to continue to read about Percy Bysshe Shelley, published by Mrs. Shelley, posthumous volumes, 1824. An allegory. A portal as a human adamant stands yawning on the highway of the life, which we all tread, a cavern huge and gaunt, around its rages and unceasing strife of shadows like the restless clouds that haunt the gap of some cleft mountain lifted high into the whirlwinds of the upper sky. And many pass it by the careless tread, not knowing that a shadowy tracks every traveler, even where the dead wait peacefully for their companion new, by others by more curious humor led, pause to examine. These are very few, and they learn their little there, except to know that shadows follow them wherever they go. Published by Mrs. Shelley, posthumous poems, 1824. The world's wanderers. Tell me, thou star, whose wings of light speed thee in the fiery night flight, in what cavern of the night will thy pinions close now? Tell me, moon, thou pale and gray, pilgrim of heaven's homeless way, in what depth of night or day seekest thou repose now? Weary wind, O wanderest, like the world's rejected guest, hast thou still some secret nest on the tree or billow? Published by Leigh Hunt, the Literary Pocketbook, 1823. There is a manuscript amongst the Euler manuscripts and another in the Harvard manuscript book. Sonnet. Ye hasten to the grave, ye seek ye there, ye restless thoughts and busy purposes of the idle brain which the world's livery wear, O thou quick heart, which paintest to possess all that pale exception feigneth fair, thou vainly curious mind, which wouldest guess whence thou did come and whither thou must go, and all that never yet was known would know, or whither hasten ye that thus ye press? With such swift feet, life's green and pleasant path seeks alike some happiness and woe, a refuge in the cavern of gray death. O heart and mind and thoughts, what thing do you hope to inherit the grave below? Published by Leigh Hunt, the Literary Pocketbook, 1823. The lines of the sonnet immediately preceding are signed Sigma in the Literary Pocketbook. Lines of a reviewer. Alas, good friend, what profit can you see in hating such a hateless thing as me? There is no sport in hate, where all the rage is on one side. In vain would you assuage your frowns upon an unresting smile, in which not even contempt lurks to beguile. Your heart is some faint sympathy of hate, or conqueror that you cannot satiate. For to your passion I am far more coy than ever yet was coldest maid or boy in winter room of your antipathy. If I am the narcissus, you are free to pine into a sound with hating me. Published by Edward Doden, correspondence of Robert Southey and Caroline Bowles, 1880, fragment of a satire on a satire. If gibbets, axes, confiscations, chains, and racks of subtle torture, if the pains of shame of fairy, hell's tempestuous wave seems through the caverns of the shadowy grave, hurling the damned into the murky sky, while the meek blessed sit smiling, if despair and hate, the rapid bloodhounds with which terror hunts through the world of homeless steps of error, are the true secrets of the commonwealth, to make men wise and just, but not the sophisms of revenge and fear. Bloodier than is revenge, then sends the priest to every hearth and home to preach the bumming wrath which is to come, in words like flakes of sulfur, such as thaw the frozen tears. If satire's scourge could wake the slumbering hounds of conscience, or erase the deeper wounds, the leprous scars of callous infamy, if it could make the present not to be, or charm the dark past never have to have been, or turn regret to hope, who that has seen, that Southey is and was, would not explain. Lash on, for the keen verse dipped in flame. Follow his flight with winged words and urge the strokes of the inexorable scourge, until the heart be naked, till his soul sees the Cantajon sport foul, and from the mirrors of truth, sun-like shield, from which the Parthenon arrow flash on his sight the specters of the past, until his mind's eye paint thereon, like scorn, like yon below, and rain on him like flakes of fiery snow. This cannot be, it ought not, evil still, suffering makes suffering, ill must follow ill. Rough words beget the thoughts, and beside take a sullen and stupid pride in being all thy hate and other shame by a perverse antipathy of fame. 'Tis not worth while to prove, as I could, how from the sweet fountains of nature flow these bitter waters. I will only say, if any friend would take Southey some day and tell him in the country walk alone, softening harsh words with friendship's gentle tone, how incorrect his public conduct is, and what men think of it, 'twere not amiss, far better than make an innocent ink. Published by Mrs. Lee over the signature Sigma, the literary pocketbook of 1822. Good night. Good night, ah no, the hour is ill, which severs, though it should unite. Let us remain together still, then it will be good night. How can I tell the lone night good, thou the sweet wish wings its flight, and it's not said, thought, understood, then it will be good night. To hearts which near each other move, from evening close to morning light, the night is good, because by love they never say good night. Well, Steve's continuing to look through what he wants to read here. Published in part, lines 11 through 30 by Mrs. Shelley, Posthumous Poems, 1824, in the full length from the Bosco manuscript. Fyodor Despina. The season of the childhood is sweet June, whose sunny hours from morning until noon wept creeping through the day with silent feet, each with its load of pleasure, slow yet sweet, like the long years of blessed eternity, never to be developed, joy to thee. Fidesperina and thy Cosimo, for thou the wonders of the depths canst know, of this unfathomable flood of hours, sparkling beneath the heaven which embowers. They were two cousins, almost like two twins, except from the catalogue of sins. Nature has raised their love, which could not be, by the diversing their nativity. And so they grew together like two flowers, upon one stem, in which the same beams and showers lull or awaken in their purple prime, which the same hand will gather the same clime. Shake the decay, the fair day smiles to see all those who love, who e'er loved like thee. Fidesperina, scarcely Cosimo, within those bosom and whose brain no glow, the ardors of the vision which obscure the very lot of its portraiture, he feigns dissolved into the sea of love, but thou art as a planet sphered above. But thou art love itself, ruling the motion of his subjected spirit. Such emotion must end in sin and sorrow, if sweet May had not brought forth this morn your wedding day. Lie there, sleep a while in your own dew, yet faint-eyed children of the hours, Fidesperina said, and through the flowers which she had from the breathing, a table neared a polished palfrey. Then she seemed to wear the beauty from the eye that looked on them, a fragrance from the touch, whose warmth checked their life, a light such as sleepy wearer, lulled by the voice they love, which did reprove the childish pity that she felt on them, and a remorse from that their stem. She had divided such fair shapes, made a feeling in the which she was a shade, a gentle beauty of the flowers there lay, all gems that make the earth's dark bosom gay, rods of myrtle buds and lemon blooms, and that leaf tinted lightly, which assumes the livery of remembered snow, violets and eyes have drunk Fidesperina and her nurse are now upon the steps of the high portico, under the withered arms of Medea. She flings her glowing arm. Step by step and stair by stair, this withered woman, gray, white, and brown, more like a trunk of lichens overgrown than anything which once could have been human, and ever as she goes, the palliest woman, how slow and painful you seem to walk. Poor Medea, you're tired yourself with talk, and well it may, for Despina, dearest, well a day, you are hastened to the marriage bed, and I to the grave, and I, my love, were dead. Unless my heart deceased me, I would lie beside him in my shroud as willingly as now in the gay night dress Lilia wore. Fire, child, not less unseasonable thought, not be remembered till it snows in June. These such fancies are the music out of tune. With the sweet dance your heart must keep tonight. What, would you take all beauty and delight back to the paradise from which you sprung, and leave the grossier mortals, and say, sweet lamb, you would not learn the sweet and subtle mystery of which spirits meet? Who knows whether the love game is played, when once of mortal vesture disrayed, the naked souls go wandering here and there through the wild deserts of Elysian air? The violet dies not till it. Time Long Past, published by Rossetti, Complete Political Works of Percy by Shelley, 1870. This is one of the three poems, Love's Philosophy and Goodnight, transcribed by Shelley in a copy of Leigh Hunt's Literary Pocketbook of 1819. Time long past. Look, the ghost of the dear friend dead is time long past, a tone which is now forever fled, a hope which is now forever past, a love so sweet it could not last, was time long past. There were sweet dreams in the night of time long past, and was it sadness or delight, each day of shadow onward cast, which made us wish it yet might last, that time long past? There is regret, almost remorse, for time long past. 'Tis like a child's beloved course. A father watches till it lasts. Beauty is like remembrance cast from time long past. Fragment of the Deserts of Dim Sleep, published by Rossetti, Complete Political Works of Percy Bysshe Shelley, 1870. I went into the deserts of dim sleep, the world which, like an unknown wilderness, bound with this, its recesses wide and deep. Published by Rossetti, Complete Political Works of PSB, 1870. Fragment, the viewless and invisible consequence. The viewless and invisible consequence watches thy goings out and comings in, and hovers o'er thy guilty sleep, unveiling every newborn deed and thoughts more ghastly than those deeds. Fragment, a serpent's face, published by Rossetti. His face was like a snake's, wrinkled and loose and withered. Fragments, death and life. Fragments to a man's mind. Thou living light, in that thy rainbow hues closest this naked world, and o'er sea and earth and air, with all the shapes that be, in peopled darkness of this wondrous world, the spring of thy glory dost diffuse. Truth, thou vital flame, mysterious thought, that in this mortal frame of things with unextinguished luster burnest, now pale and faint, now high to heavens uncurled, that ere as dost languish still returnest, and ever before the pyramids, from soon as earth from the earth formless and rude, one living step has chased your solitude. Thou wert thought, thy brightness charmed the lids of the vast snake eternity, who kept the trees of good and evil. Notes of the poems of 1820 by Mrs. Shelley. We spent the last part of the year in 1819 in Florence, where Shelley passed several hours daily in the gallery, had made various notes of his ancient works of art. His thoughts were a good deal taken up also by the project of the steamboat, undertaken by a friend, an engineer, a ply named Leghorn and Marcellus, for which he supplied a sum of money. This is a sort of plan to delight Shelley, and he was greatly disappointed when it was thrown aside. This was something in Florence that disagreed excessively with his health, and he suffered far more pain than usual, so much so that he left it sooner than we intended and removed to Pisa, where he had some friends, and above all, could consult the celebrated Vacca to the cause of Shelley's sufferings. He, like every other medical man, could only guess at that, and gave little hope of immediate relief. He enjoined him to abstain from all physicians and medicine, as to leave his complaint to nature, and he had vainly consulted medical men of the highest repute in England. He was easily persuaded to adopt this advice. Pain and ill health followed him to the end, but the resistance at Pisa agreed with him better than any other, and there in consequence we remained. In the spring, we spent a week or two near Langdon, borrowing the house of some friends who were absent on a journey to England. It was of a beautiful summer evening. While wandering among the lanes and those myrtle hedges were the bowers of the fireflies, and we heard the caroling of the skylark, which inspired one of the most beautiful of his poems. He addressed the letter to Miss Gisborne from his house, which was hers. He had made his study of the worship of her son, who was an engineer. Mrs. Gisborne had a friend of my father of her younger days. She was a lady of great accomplishments and charming from the frank and affectionate nature. She had the most intense love of knowledge, a delicate and trembling sensibility, and preserved freshness of mind after a life of considerable adversity. As a favorite friend of my father, she had sought her with eagerness, and most open and cordial friendship was established between us. Our stay at the Baths of San Guillermo was shortened by an accident. At the foot of our garden ran a canal that communicated between the Serchio and the Arno. The Serchio overflowed its banks, and breaking its bounds, this canal was overflowed. All this part of the country is below the level of the rivers, and the consequences was that it was speedily flooded. The rising waters filled the squares of the baths, and in the lower parts of our house were situated. The canal overflowed in the garden behind. The rising waters on either side at last burst open to the doors, and meeting in the house rose to the height of 6 feet. It was a picturesque sight at night to see the peasants driving the cattle from the plains below to the hills above the baths. The fire was kept up to guide them across the ford, and forms of the men and the animals showed in the dark relief against the red glare of the flame, in which reflected again the waters of the square. We then removed to Pisa and took up an abode there for the winter. The extreme mildness of the calm suited Shelley, and his solitude was enlivened by an intercourse with several immediate friends. Chance cast us, strangely enough, on this quiet, half-unpeopled town, but its very peace suited Shelley. Its river, the near mountains, and the not-distant sea added to its attractions and were the objects of many delightful excursions. We feared the south of Italy and the hotter climate, on account of our child, a former bereavement, inspiring us with terror. We seemed to take root here and moved a little afterwards, often upon entertaining projects of visiting other parts of Italy, but still delayed. But our fears on account of our child, I believe we should have wandered over the world, both being passionately fond of traveling, but human life, besides its great unalterable necessities, is ruled by 1,000 Lilliputian ties that shackle at the time, although it is difficult to account afterwards of their influence over our destiny. And I think we shall leave this for tomorrow, the dirge of the year. We thank Mrs. Shelley and Percy Blythe for their lovely travels and lovely poetry, and we will thank them for giving the women of the world their civil rights, and we pray for peace for the children and the women of the world, and we pray for peace in the world. Have a nice day. Like and share, subscribe.